Culture Pop Remix.
Hello, and welcome to Culture Pop Remix number 15. I'm your host, Orrin Merton, and in this episode, I want to talk about some television shows I'm excited about, namely Season 2 of Timeless and Season 2 of Jessica Jones. After those TV shows, I want to talk about some new tech devices that I have in my possession, namely an iPhone X, an Amazfit Bip watch, and the Amazon Echo Spot. All right, let's get going. All right, so the second season of a couple television shows that I've been watching has just begun, and I wanted to talk about each of them in turn. So I'm going to start with NBC's Timeless, at least NBC in the USA. I'm not sure where it airs outside the US. But Timeless is a good show. It's a time travel show. It got good reviews. It really got singled out for the great chemistry between the main cast, which is Abigail Spencer as the historian, Lucy Preston, Matt Lanter as a soldier, Wyatt Logan, and Malcolm Barrett as the pilot of the Lifeboat, which is the name of their time craft. His character is called Rufus Carlin. And it was just fun to watch them sort of go to the era of the week, and they had good chemistry, and it was mostly fun and crazy, and there were cool plot twists. And it was more fun than sort of, a real serious pontification on the meaning of life. But you know what? There's nothing wrong with just 40 minutes of just entertainment. Ratings-wise, it was always on that cusp. And NBC announced that they weren't happy about it, but just the numbers didn't quite make it worth continuing, and so they canceled it. But here's the fun part. There was a fan campaign to bring Timeless back, and only days after NBC canceled it, they reversed the cancellation. NBC hadn't done this since 1967's Star Trek, so this was a big, exciting thing in and of itself. So I was excited because I liked the show. I watched the first episode of Season 2 very eagerly. I expected to be entertained, and I was entertained. They basically figured out what works on the show, the chemistry, the craziness, and everything else, and they wrapped it with just enough sort of continuing plot and melodrama to make it sink. And it was fun. It was a fun show. I think it set up the season really well, and I'm looking forward to the rest. The second show I want to talk about is Jessica Jones. Now, this is a Marvel superhero show, but Jessica Jones definitely appeals to more than simply a superhero crowd. She was written as a superhero. She's got super strength, but really she's just a very complicated, three-dimensional PTSD traumatized woman who, you know what, she's strong too. So I recommend this to people who don't even care about the superhero aspect, because really it's just a PI dark noir show. And season 1 was really exceptional. And season 2, I've only watched the first one. The great thing about Netflix is they're all online to be consumed at once if you want to binge. And I've only had time to watch the first one so far, but I absolutely loved it. From the film noir style, kind of narration to the acting. Kristen Ritter is just amazing as Jessica Jones. I mean, she absolutely owns the character, and everyone is good. I mean, Trish, her best friend, and Malcolm, her assistant. Everybody's really good, and the pilot has sort of set up the kind of mystery for the season, or at least the first arc and whatever, and it was really engaging. I mean, it really kind of sucked me in. So I'm very excited about the rest of Jessica Jones and very much looking forward to seeing what it becomes as well. So if you're looking for some TV to either start watching or continue watching, that's what I would recommend. All right, so let's move on. Let's talk a little tech, shall we? Okay, so let's start with the big purchase. Although, interestingly, I've had it for the least amount of time. So I got a new phone. It's to no one's surprise, I'm pretty deeply invested, both financially and emotionally, in the Apple world. So there really was no question that I was going to replace my iPhone with an iPhone. I didn't expect to do it right now, but I don't really intend to, but I have to kind of, avert my gaze and sheepishly admit that I'm kind of abusive on phones. I don't mean to be. Part of it's that I'm klutzy. I kind of drop my phone. Part of it's that I got big dogs, and if I'm holding my phone loosely and they knock into me, that can send a phone flying. And then I also just tend to connect and disconnect cables, I guess, too aggressively. I don't know, but I wear them out. So I knew I was going to get an iPhone 10 at some point, but I didn't expect it to be now. But my phone gave out over the weekend, so I got myself a new iPhone 10. I've only had it for a few days at this point, but to no one's surprise, I really love it. I think the size is perfect for my hand. It really feels good. It's kind of about the size of the iPhone 7 or maybe the Moto X Android phone if you're used to Android phones. It looks absolutely beautiful. The screen is incredible. It's incredibly fast and responsive. If you are one of those people who follows sort of Apple-oriented tech blogs, you know that there's a lot of hand wringing and gnashing of teeth over the quote-unquote notch, which is the fact that at the very top of the screen they needed a place to put, the camera and the Face ID sensor and stuff like that, and it's basically means that normally the bezel is cut everywhere. They got rid of all the big bezel on the other iPhones, but they had to kind of keep a little bit of bezel where that equipment is up top, and it's called the notch because it looks like a notch in an otherwise clean, bezel-free front of a phone. I can assure you that the notch goes away because when you're using it, it's the control bar where you find your Wi-Fi symbol and the bars of connectivity you have and battery life, and you really don't miss anything. The only thing I miss because of that notch is I used to have both the graphic of my battery life and the percentage as well right next to it. But now you can't do that. The extra notch cuts out the space that you would have had the percentage. So that's the only thing that's sort of gone in actual practicality because of the notch. And you basically have the same screen of the plus size on now a smaller sized phone. So, I think those people who are complaining about the notch either just want something to complain about or, I don't know, maybe they're just pickier than I am. As far as Face ID goes, I was a little concerned about that simply because I've never used a face sensor. I've gotten used to the Touch ID, the fingerprint sensor, which I found relatively easy to operate. But I have found that in practical use, the face identification is really excellent. It works so fast, you don't even know it happens. I've never had to look at my phone and go, okay, unlock, unlock, unlock. It's like as soon as, if you can see the phone, it can see you and it'll unlock. So it's very easy. And I've noticed that every app that allowed me to use Touch ID fingerprints works with Face ID. And again, it's even more seamless. I don't have to touch anything. Just loading the app and looking at it is enough for it to just work. So, things are best when they just work. And really, Face ID just does. I have not played with Animoji, partially because I can't really think of whom I want to send a dancing poo face to, but that people say that's fun and that's really great. I've only mostly used it, as a mobile internet device and as a phone, and of course the connectivity is great, the speed is great. It loads all my apps. There's been no problems connecting to everything. It connects to my car. Again, I saw some people on the internet talking about how they were having trouble with the new phones, the iPhone 8 and the iPhone 10, connecting to their car. I don't know why. It's the same functionality as it's always been. Let me see. So yeah, I don't have a ton to say. There's, full complete reviews all over the internet. I highly recommend the YouTube channel of Marques Brownlee because he's really good and very easy to follow and isn't kind of a hypey kind of person who gets all hand wringy and insane about minutia that may or may not actually matter. So yeah, new phone. I'm loving it. Case is on the way. Got to get a good case because, like I said, I tend to abuse my phones. And yeah, if you're looking for a new phone and you have the kind of money, remember, the iPhone 10 is not a cheap phone. I mean, you pay for it. You want the most fashionable, the highest end Apple phone. Okay, I mean, it's there and it's great, but it costs you money. You're going to pay for it. So if that's not a problem, then pay for it. You'll get what you paid for. So I want to go now from paying top dollar to literally paying bottom dollar. So I used to have a smartwatch called the Pebble Time Steel. For those of you who don't know about Pebble, it was actually one of the very first smartphone companies, and they made inexpensive smartwatches. They had their own ecosystem with apps and everything else, and it used e-ink, so it had about a week of battery life instead of a day. Screen wasn't nearly as beautiful as an Android Wear watch or Apple Watch or whatever with the great OLED screens. It wasn't a touch screen or whatever, but it was a minimal smartwatch that gave me notifications. It gave me the time persistently. And when I say persistently, I kind of have to laugh. One of the things that I demand of a watch, because I've been a watch guy since I was a kid. One of the things I demand of a watch is that it actually tell me the time all the time. I shouldn't have to do a spastic wrist twitch. Boy, say that 5 times fast. To get it to operate. It shouldn't be a black brick on my wrist that I have to move somehow to activate. I should be able to have my hands just at my side and look down and see the time. I should be able to just have my arm on the arm of the couch or something and just look at my wrist and see the time. But in order to preserve battery life, the Apple Watch and the Android Wear watches, they default to off. There's just nothing there until you move your wrist and activate it all. And that won't work for me. I need to just be able to look at my watch. So the Pebble Time Steel showed me the time all the time. Such a basic feature for a watch, right? Unfortunately, Pebble went out of business, so I've had the watch about 3 years. It hasn't been updated. The new system updates have made it extremely twitchy. It was not keeping connection anymore with the watch. It would lose connection multiple times per day. But even though it is inevitable, as I've said, I'm very, very in the Apple ecosystem. Even though it's inevitable at some point, I am going to end up with an Apple Watch. It's not where I want it to be yet. And so I want to just let it go a few more generations and hope that there's a persistency of the time. So I wanted something that is current, is being supported, but is cheap, basically cheap enough to make sense to buy in between now and whenever I end up with an Apple Watch. And a friend of mine actually pointed out to me this Chinese watch from a company, and forgive me if I butcher the name, called Xiaomi, I think. And the watch is called the Amazfit BIP. And it kind of looks like a super cheap plastic Apple Watch. And the band it came with was terrible. It was, this rubber plasticky thing. But, again, it was a $60 watch. I was able to buy it through one of these apps that does the importing from China. And it was $60. And I bought a new band that's, kind of a nicer nylon instead of the plasticky garbage. And that was $5. So we're talking $65 watch. And for a $65 interim smartwatch, I gotta say, this one is absolutely fine. It hasn't dropped connection with my phone since I've had it. It took me a moment or two to get it set up, and the app itself isn't beautiful, but it doesn't need to be, It does what it needs to do. And it's not a perfect watch. The notifications only last on the screen a few seconds. So whereas on the Pebble Time Steel, they would be persistent, on here, basically a notification buzzes you, appears, and it's gone. Now, this does actually have a touchscreen. I mean, it's not a very sensitive touchscreen because we're talking super cheap glass, but because it's a nice touchscreen, you can, use your finger to swipe and reread your notifications. You can swipe to turn on Do Not Disturb mode. You can press a button to get a light so you can view it better in dark conditions. Also pressing the button, you can access, the fitness features. So it's good, I mean, if I were looking for like a fashion accessory and a watch that had apps and an ecosystem, of course this isn't it. But this watch, if you're looking for something to replace a Fitbit, then this would do fine. It doesn't connect to the actual Fitbit app. So if you have like your life on your Fitbit, the app part, then obviously you're going to need another Fitbit. But if you're looking for something that has Fitbit-like features, but you want to pay less money, then this does, and it has notifications and it keeps your phone connection. It's great. It's not beautiful, but it does what it does. And like I said, I mean, if you really want a fashion watch, well, I mean, beyond just a gorgeous analog dumb watch, but if you want a fashionable smartwatch, I mean, let's put it this way, you're going to be getting an Apple Watch, or you're going to be getting one of the, more expensive fashion forward Android Wear watches. But if you're just looking for a cheap smartwatch, I mean, I got this on an app called GearBest. There's others that import things from China, and look, it's worth the money. Let's put it that way. It's $65 well spent. And even if it doesn't last all that long, I mean, hey, $65. I don't expect a $65 plastic watch to last me as long as, a $400+ premium smartwatch. So that is the Amazfit Bip. And the last device I wanted to talk about is the Amazon Echo Spot. This is a connected device. It uses Our Lady Alexa. Sorry if I just set off all your home appliances. I'm definitely, just like I'm in the Apple ecosystem, I'm also in the Echo ecosystem. And I don't happen to have a clock in my bedroom. So I saw the Echo Spot. That's the one that looks like a little clock with a screen on it and tells you the time and the weather and stuff like that. And I thought, you know what? Let's try it. Let's see how it is. So I picked one up on a sale and with some, free points that I had, so I didn't pay very much for it. But I got to tell you, it's really nice. It's really, really nice. The nice thing about Alexa devices is they're all on the same account, so you can be in one room and use your Alexa to control things in another room, or if you're adding to your shopping list, you can be in any room and just say, oh, add this to my list, and it'll get added wherever you are. So, big fan of the system, and this is just another Echo device. The thing that I liked is that, first of all, the little screen is actually very high res and really good. It's too small in my opinion to watch a movie or TV show on or something. But I was reading online that some people also have the Amazon Cloud, the connected camera, and they use it to, as like a baby monitor or a security cam or whatever. I think that's a great use for it. And, I guess if you have one in the kitchen, you could probably watch a video on how to make some food or something. So, I think the screen is great for what it is. And also the speaker. It's surprisingly good. I mean, no, you're not talking like stereo sound like Google Max or Apple HomePod quality, sound reproduction on a tiny little Bluetooth speaker. But it's surprisingly good for what it is. So I'm very, very happy with the Echo Spot as a device. Now, I should say it allows you to make video calls if you have other people on the Echo system and things like that. I'm not crazy about I've never done that. I really have no interest in that. And I deactivated the camera internally. I've had it brought up to me that perhaps even better would be to put some tape or something over the camera itself. because there was a little, I remember online, some kind of questions of how hackable is the camera, and, do you really want somebody, with a camera in your house or, bedroom or whatever you've got. So that's a real thing. If you do the video calls or you want the camera, then that's great. But if, like me, you don't, you can deactivate it in the settings on the device itself. And if you're really worried, then you can tape over it. And it's not, even if you don't deactivate it, theoretically, it's not going to turn until you tell it to. But still, I deactivated it anyway, just to be more certain. And I think I am ultimately going to put a piece of tape over it to be even more certain. But that's the Echo Spot. And that's this episode as well. So I hope you enjoyed the things that I brought up this episode. Please email me at info@culturepopremix.com if you have any comments or questions or suggestions for the future. If you liked this episode, please leave a review in the Apple Podcasts app or iTunes or wherever it is that you listen and download or stream your podcasts. And be good to yourselves and each other. And I will catch you next time.
Culture Pop Remix.